नमस्ते प्रणाम गीता ध्यान ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। Oh, Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna, which was included in the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O goddess, contained in the 18 chapters, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism, O my affectionate mother, destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Now, Krishna Vandana. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकीं परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. O son of Vasudeva, the destroyer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. So today we take up a reading of the 25th Shloka of the second Adhyay Sankhya Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna is explaining about the nature of the Atman, the super mundane, the supreme qualities of the Atma as such. And in our previous two readings, Sri Krishna has told us, he has emphasized again and again that Atman is something which cannot be cut with weapons, which cannot be wet with water, which cannot be burnt with fire, which cannot be dried with wind. So these elements, they have no influence, no effect on the Atman as such. It has its own entity. It has its own standing and it is unchangeable. Now, Sri Krishna is again emphasizing the similar qualities of the Atman in this 25th shloka. Avyakto ऽयमच avikāryo uchyate tasmādevaṁ viditvainaṁ nānuśhochitum arhasi. Sri Krishna is telling what is Atman like. Avyakta ayam achintyaha ayam. This ayam is this. This is avyakta. It is unmanifested. It doesn't come into, it doesn't take form. You cannot see Atman as such. You cannot uh, comprehend Atman through any of the senses. Avyakta. It doesn't get any form. It doesn't have any sound. So you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot touch. It is unmanifested. Achintyo. This again, this is unthinkable. You cannot think about. I mean, if at all you have to think about anything, it has to have a name and form. Nama Rupa is a must for anything to be thought of, to be comprehended. Now, Atman is beyond the name and form. So you cannot think about Atman. Is Atman fair? Is Atman dark complexion? Is Atman fat? Is Atman lean? Is Atman tall? Is Atman short? No, we cannot do it. It is unthinkable. It is achintyo. Again, avikāryo ayam uchyate. Again, it is said to be avikāryo. There cannot be any vikars, there cannot be any changes in Atman. It is unchangeable. There cannot be any modifications, there cannot be any mutations. Like the physical body, day in and day out, every moment there are modifications, whether it is body or mind. These kind of things, they have a mind also we cannot see, right? Unlike body, the mind we cannot see, but it keeps on modifying. This moment it is happy, next moment it is unhappy, this moment it is angry, next moment it starts loving. So that is the kind of changes that keep on taking place in the mind. But Atman is avikāryo. There are no changes, there are no vikars in the Atman. Tasmādevaṁ viditvainaṁ. Tasmat is therefore. Evam, thus, viditva, having known. Enam, this, therefore, having known these qualities of the Atman, no, not. Nānuśhochitum, grieve, arhasi. Therefore, you ought not grieve about it. No, Arjuna's entire worry is about killing somebody, and then, all those negative things going to happen post war. So, I am not going to get into this war. If I kill all of them, what will happen? So, Krishna is telling you're just killing the body itself. Atman, you cannot touch even. And therefore, Sri Krishna is again and again highlighting these qualities of the Atman. If Atman is a thing that is unmanifested, that is avyakto, that is achintyo. You cannot think about Atman, you cannot comprehend about Atman. And avikāryo, it is changeless, it cannot be modified, it cannot take birth, it cannot die, it is in its own glory. So, having known this, there is no need, you ought not grieve over, so called, you're thinking of, I'm going to kill Atman. No, Atman is not something. So, the literal translation of this shloka comes as this Atman is said to be unmanifested, unthinkable, immutable. Therefore, knowing it as such, knowing these qualities about the Atman, you should not grieve. Simple advice to Arjuna. Now, let us read the comment given by Swami Chidbhavananda ji on this shloka. Atman cannot be perceived by any of the senses. Yes, we cannot see it, we cannot hear. Atman doesn't make any sound that we hear. We cannot touch Atman. None of the senses are of any use in or of any help in knowing the Atman. So, Atman cannot be perceived by any of the senses, and whatever does not come within the realm of the senses is necessarily unmanifested. We cannot understand by our senses. It is very hard to conceive of a thing that cannot be perceived naturally. Because, I said during the introduction of this shloka, that you can perceive only those things which have name and form. Yes, you give a name and form to anything, you can have some kind of imagination, you can perceive what kind of thing that could be. You say a flower, you have some conceptions, you have some, knowledge of what may. There is no need to specify which flower, whether it is a rose or a jasmine or a marigold. But the moment you say a word flower, some kind of name and form, some kind of name and form association. You start imagining, you start seeing the picture of some kind of a flower. It need not be any specific flower as such. It is a generalized term. Or you say, you just think about animal. It is not a very specific which animal, just animal. But some kind of thoughts, they start coming to your mind when you think about the word animal. In case of Atman, what is it that you can think of? There is nothing stored in your memory that you can bring it out to understand what it could be. All other things which have name and form can be manifested, but Atman remains unmanifested. It is therefore unthinkable. Only thing you can think about is space, which again is beyond the comprehension of our senses. We cannot see, we cannot hear, we cannot touch, we cannot smell. So the four elements, air, fire, water, and earth, can be sensed. Hmm? And that's what Sri Krishna had told in the previous chapter. All these four elements which can be sensed, they have no influence, no effect on the Atman. The air cannot dry it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, and earth, in terms of earth, Krishna had used the word weapons. They cannot cut it. So these four elements, the nature which we can see, we can perceive through our senses. Hmm? They and these four elements can be sensed, and these four elements have no influence, no effect on the Atman. There is only the fifth element in the nature, which is space, akash, which cannot be perceived by any of the senses. And these four senses are seen to be undergoing modifications. As such, they are mutable. Sometimes we feel, oh, there is a lot of wind. Suddenly the wind stops. There is a change, isn't it? Water evaporates. Water takes different shapes. Ordinarily, a water which is liquid can become solid under the conditions of different temperatures. So, all these four elements, air, fire, water, and earth, these four elements, they undergo changes, right? But element akasha undergoes no modification. It is ever in its original state, like akasha. Atman is ever in its original state. It is therefore said to be immutable. There is no change. You can start a fire, you can douse a fire also, isn't it? By pouring water. So all these four natural elements, they can be sensed, they can be controlled, they can change, but not the Akasha. And therefore, Atman is very much like Akasha. And therefore, in the previous two verses, Sri Krishna has categorically told that these four elements, they have, which are changeable, which are perceivable by the senses. These four elements have no effect on the Atman. It cannot be cut, it cannot be made wet, it cannot be dried, it cannot be burned. Elemental Akasha is insentient and Atman or Chita Akasha is sentient. In every other respect, they are similar, they are identical. Both being partless, they remain immutable. It ill becomes one to grieve over the immutable. There is no point in grieving over the thing which doesn't have, which doesn't undergo any changes, which doesn't undergo any mutations, which is immutable, which is changeless. And let us see what Sri Ramakrishna has to say on the meaning of this shloka. which this quotation Swami Chidbhavananda ji has included at the end of this explanation of this shloka. Sri Ramakrishna says, what is Brahman like? It cannot be defined with words. One may be called upon to explain what the ocean is like. A person who has never seen it. The expounder can at best say it is a vast sheet of water. But defining Brahman is much more difficult, extremely difficult. And like Sri Krishna has spoken about Atman, it is avyakto, it is an achintyo. You cannot think about, you cannot define Atman in any with any definition. What is Atman? You can only say it is avyakto, it is achintyo, it is avikāryo. So Sri Ramakrishna has said, what is Brahman? Cannot be explained. No, Atman is nothing but Brahman, one entity. And Sri Ramakrishna says it cannot be defined with words. How can you define anything which is beyond the perception of any of these limited senses that we have got? Just imagine today we have these five senses. If any of these senses would have been missing from our system, we would have perceived the world in a totally different manner. Or if there was another additional sense available for the human beings, again we would have perceived the world in a totally different way. If instead of five, if we had four senses, or three senses, or six or seven senses, our entire understanding of this world, of the surroundings around us, would have been totally different. So, Sri Ramakrishna says that if somebody is asked to explain, if some person has not seen water at all, ocean at all, he has never gone away from his little village. He doesn't know, he has not even seen photographs of ocean. And you were to explain the ocean to that person. Now, you have seen ocean, you have some understanding of the ocean as an entity, and you are asked to explain to him what is ocean. Okay, you will say, oh, ocean, it is you see this water in the bucket? Hmm? Ocean is a huge sheet of water. And then some kind of idea, that person who has never seen the ocean, who has never heard about the ocean, he'll get some idea about it. Oh, it must be a huge sheet of water. A water body, huge water body. There is water in my pot, there is water in the bucket, and there is somewhere there is a huge amount of water, a huge, at least you can get some kind of idea about it. So Sri Ramakrishna says, physical things you can at least give some explanation, you can make some kind of attempt to explain them, make the person understand what it can be. For Brahman, for the Atman, there is no way at all. It is extremely difficult to define, to explain the Atman, the Brahman with words. You can only give these kind of the words for the Atman. That Atman cannot be burned with fire. Atman cannot be cut by weapons. Atman cannot be, you cannot wet the Atman with water, or you cannot dry the Atman with air, with wind. You can only say Atman is avyakto, Atman is achintyo, Atman is avikāryo. That is the only thing. Now, if Atman is this, then is there any point in grieving? No, that is what Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna. There is no point in grieving at all. It will never take you anywhere. So that was a beautiful shloka that we have just read. Sri Krishna telling about the three qualities of the Atman, and therefore there is no need to grieve. There is no need to be sorrow. There is no need to worry. There is no need to be despondent that I will be killing it. So that is Sri Krishna's teaching in this particular 25th shloka to us. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Swami.